So,
There we go.
hi, everybody. Welcome to Community Board 7's Parks and Environment Committee. The first thing we have to do, well, I am Barbara Adler, one of the co-chairs. This is my wonderful co-chair, Daria Kim.
Hello.
And I don't know how many people know Linda, but we're very, very happy to have Linda this year as our public member. And she is a longtime community board member, but not at this very moment. And Jamie, who's
I'm a member of a
board
different
member as
committee.
well. Okay,
Yes.
so the first thing I have to do is ask for an adoption of the agenda. So all in favor? Okay, we don't have any waivers tonight, as far as I have heard. So we'll move right on. And that first item is Janet Schroeder, and she is the executive director and the founder of New York City e-bike Safety Alliance, EVSA. And we're very fortunate to have her here tonight. So Janet, why don't we start?
First of all, thank you. We don't get a lot of opportunities to speak, and we've had a couple CB7 recently. Thank you, both Jamie and Barbara. Yes, New York City E-Vehicle Safety Alliance, co-founded with Pamela Manasseh, a victim. I am not myself one. Hopefully won't happen. But we're an unfunded and unpaid group of over 1,500 New Yorkers, and we have 119 victims in our group. We have over 250 cyclists in our group. We're not at all against cycling or e-bikes at all, so I want to put that out there. We just have one agenda, and that is safety for all. We did begin up here on the Upper West Side where I live, and now we have members in 4 out of 5 boroughs. So Staten Island, not yet. Next slide, yeah. Yeah, that just tells a little bit about us. Our EVSA victims are a very tiny percentage of the tens of thousands in the last 5 years. Next slide, thank you. We have 1 death, Priscilla Loke, her family, we're counting them as victims. A permanent paralysis, our co-founder, 22 skull fractures, 19 traumatic brain injuries, 37 broken ribs, 4 broken hips, vision loss, multiple, hundreds and hundreds of severe lacerations and broken bones. And we just have 119 victims. That is the tiniest percentage. And we're going to talk about that, even though the stats may not show that, the DOT stats. And that's our biggest fight, because the truth needs to be told here. 8 of those 119 victims have police reports. 8 of them show up on police reports for various reasons we can talk about in Q&A. And in all but 6 cases, the rider fled. In all but 6 cases, the rider fled of those 119. Next. We believe that our parks are for relaxation and recreation, not transportation. That's how they weren't designed to be transportation. They were designed for relaxation and recreation. And we're so glad that cars got out of them 10 years ago. The multi-million-dollar redesign of the park was done without proper community involvement and without proper e-vehicle crash stats. Mayor Adams launched this e-vehicles in the park pilot program in June 2023, just as the Park Drive's redesign was still finishing up being planned and about to be implemented. We've been told by Central Park Conservancy and the DOT and everyone else that all stakeholders were surveyed. But we, the people, feel that we're the biggest group of stakeholders. Our safety is at stake every day. So we have a lot of other stakeholders out there. I don't need to name them. I think we know, who they might be. We are the people who use our parks every day. Nobody at EVSA, 1,500 members, ever filled out a survey about the park's redesign and what we wanted, or if we wanted it at all. So regardless of the dangerous pilot program, it's been extended twice. The last time it was extended through December 31st, 2025, but there's no word on what's happening now. That's the last we've heard. It just sort of haven't heard about it. Both the redesign and the pilot program were done without using any accurate e-vehicle crash stats. How can you redesign a park when your crash stats are literally, and I'll be talking about that in a minute, over 90% off? And we don't feel that it was a well-powered survey of the community that surrounds it, being that nobody in our group of 1,500 filled out a survey. Were we able to show this? It's just a video of what it's really like trying to cross in the park with the redesign. This is actually, I think, early November of last year. Please look at the people on the side waiting desperately to cross. Take your time, where the crosswalk no longer has red light, but it has a stop sign. Please watch. Please watch this kid stroller over to the left. I mean, they're going much faster than this. It's sort of a slow-mo version. Yeah, it's slow mode. Gotta see the pedestrians just waiting on the left as well, just waiting. Some more waiting. Try it again to see if we get the speed up, but that's just, we won't beat it over the head, but that's pretty standard, especially on a nice day. So I don't think we can deny that that's a real problem, and that's post redesign. Okay, the next slide. No problem. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. The redesign covered the accessible pedestrian signals that you see here, so that older New Yorkers, people with disabilities or in wheelchairs no longer have a button to push to stop vehicles. Many of the red lights were changed to yellow flashing. Reasons that we heard about that were they're not stopping anyway. This just kind of reminds them to slow down because they're not going to stop. No, they don't slow down or stop. At least with the red, they might actually, some people may stop, who knows? And the new redesign created huge spaces on the drives. The majority of space is for two-wheel vehicles, even though there are far more pedestrians and joggers that use the park. So the design essentially created a super highway for e-bikes to speed through for faster transportation. And we don't believe that's what our park is for. This issue is so much more critical than what is shown on any DOT crash stats. The stats they have are completely skewed, and therefore it's easy to hide behind that misinformation about how dangerous e-bikes truly are. And that is a disservice to everybody, right? In the community, especially the vulnerable, especially older New Yorkers. And here are some crashes that will take time here. It's 11 that I have pictures of. I actually have a report of 15. Between September 7th and October 20th, I have pictures, and if anyone needs any kind of proof, I mean, I promise these are real, but pictures of 11 crashes in Central Park. This is last September to October. That were e-vehicle related. Here are 4, and if we go to the next one, here are 5, 6. Is this the next one? 7, 8, 9, 10. Is there an 11th? Because there were 11 that okay, anyway, 10.
So that's 2025.
Yeah, and this is just, no, this isn't the whole year, though. This is from September, early September
That's what I mean.
to mid-October. Yes,
Right,
yes,
okay,
Jamie, thank you.
got it.
We're here just to kind of try to tell the facts and the truth. We're not here to try to gotcha or anything like that. We really care about safety. I live right near the park and take my dog there. I can barely walk down the pedestrian pathway with jumping out of the way in the nice weather month. Can you imagine what it's like for even older than me? I'm not young, but even older than I and people with disabilities, what the park experience has become for them. Real interesting is that we go to a lot of those Central Park precinct meetings, and we attended one in November, and they told of the September, October crash stats during this period. They had 1. This is the one, you can check, 1. Commander Migalenti stated 1. And I went up and showed him these pictures, and I said, well, we have I actually had 15, but I'll just say 11 are the only ones I could find. And so something's off here, and we aren't just blaming. We know why this happens. The ambulances come a lot to the crashes and take them away before the police get there. That is absolutely happening. And then the victim, when they get out of the hospital, whether it's 1 day, 5 days, a week, or 2 weeks later, the last thing they're thinking about is reporting. They want to recover and get back to their family. Then when they do sometimes go to report, because they don't all try, let's be honest, they don't. They are told it's too late at the precincts. So we're trying to educate the precincts that it's not too late. You've got 30 days. You've got 30 days to get that 104D and 104 form to Albany. But it's hard to get the word out. So what's happening, the precincts all say different things. I think it's because maybe there are a lot of new people coming in. Maybe it's not a priority. This isn't a blame game. I'm simply stating that some people don't try to report. Some people try and are told it's too late. Some people try and are told after the fact that the police officer didn't see it. Some people are told at the scene of the accident, I cannot report it. The police will say, because the the rider fled. There's nothing to report. We go on. And then, of course, sometimes the police aren't there at all. But yeah, they had one. And then next, I wanted to read this letter. Actually, I'm just gonna grab it from you real quick. This was this summer. Oh, this is number 12. This was during that time period. It was October 7th. I got an email from Dr. Lee Richstone, the chairman of urology at Lenox Hill Hospital. He had read something about EBSA the day before in something, and he said, he looked me up, he said, I'm currently in an ambulance with my wife who was struck by an e-bike. It is an e-bike, I promise you. And I wasn't gonna change that on here. While walking across the pedestrian crosswalk in Central Park with the light giving her right of way. She has head trauma, she's on a backboard and a neck collar. The Central Park loop is out of control, and it was an e-bike. But a lot of people do just say bike. That happens a lot in reporting too. It's so often an e-bike because if you look in the park, there are a lot of e-bikes versus bikes, and City Bike, of the bikes they have, I think they're 80% e-bike now and 20% not. So that's a problem. I just want to talk about one Upper West Side a victim that should be mentioned. Her name's Marilyn Levin. She was 77 at the time this happened in April 2024. She was taking her daily beloved walk in Central Park, her favorite activity, when she was hit from behind by an e-bike rider that fled immediately. She was knocked unconscious by the e-bike and was left on the ground with a broken tibia, fibula in multiple places, shattered the bones, so they didn't know that they'd be able to put her leg back together. They told her she probably wouldn't walk again, especially being 77. When you're older and you fall down, and your bones aren't the same. So recovering from that isn't the same as if you're 30 or 40. She spent over 3 months, had to move out of her apartment on West 68th Street and had to move into a rehab facility on the Upper West Side to learn to walk again. And she said she'll probably never walk in Central Park again, which was her favorite activity. So many older New Yorkers go to our parks. They don't want to go to our parks anymore because of e-vehicles. Ask around, they will tell you they're scared. She told me walking the park was her favorite activity, as I said, and she doesn't want to do it anymore. This accident was also not reported by the NYPD. So there's no DOT stat for this horrible accident that Marilyn had to deal with. And this is often the case. Police just weren't there before the ambulance left. And as I said, that happens all the time. And then the precinct will say it's too late when you do try to report later, or victims don't report.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk a little about some inaccurate stats. This is kind of the core of what, that's okay, of what we talk about at EBSA. So of the 100, I probably know this by heart. Well, we talked about EBSA. We talked about that already. So now I'm going to talk about the stats that, oh, is it the hospital? I have it. I can read it.
Screen is frozen.
That's not a problem.
Okay.
So, interestingly enough, I'll do this by heart. CP7 has a resolution right now, the Transportation Committee that I read, and it cites 37 crashes, could be 34, 35, I think it's 37 crashes in 2024 that the NYPD reported for the whole year in New York City, 37. Well, if you want to see it, I've got proof that there were 220 micromobility, which is mainly e-vehicle, because that's the main thing on the road. So e-vehicle moped crashes, 220 reported by one hospital, Bellevue, from January 2003 to August 2004. So in that 18-month period where this resolution says there were 37 total for the year, there were 220 in an 18-month period. So if you do the math, it still doesn't math. But the most important thing is Bellevue is one of 54 ER hospitals in New York City. So I'm not saying all are the same size. Bellevue's a big one. St. Barnabas is huge as well. But Dr. Ashley Pfaff at Bellevue stated that she sees about one a day. And we have the source because she said that to Yale Barter on December 1st in the City Journal. She sees about one e-vehicle or e-vehicle crash a day in the ER at Bellevue. If you do the math, and now you see that the DOT has 37 crashes in a year, and one ER is seeing one a day, let's just say that's 300 a year. We've got a problem. And we've been trying to ask you, please believe us, don't look at the stats. That Central Park design was designed without proper information on stats. That is a huge part that should be going into it. And we also feel that it was done without input really from the mass majority of people that live up here, because I didn't know about it. I read everything. I fill out surveys all the time. So yeah, I already said this. And then also, if you go back one, Angela Maschia, who we met with at St. Barnabas Hospital, sees multiple a day. He said that in front of Mayor Adams when we all met with him last year. He said he sees multiple a day. I didn't write that in here, the exact quote, but he said that the e-vehicle crisis is a public health crisis. That's what he called it. And he is an ER trauma surgeon at St. Barnabas. So let's move to the next. So again, neither Central Park Precinct nor any other precincts had any idea the Parks program was extending. Central Park Conservancy told they didn't know it either. The 2 times it extended, they told us that. When we talked to them, they said we found out it's extending when the masses found out. Neither have been consulted in this last year, even once, about the pilot program being last year, nor has anyone consulted the countless victims of crime and serious injuries in the parks. Getaway vehicles, e-bikes and mopeds are the #1 getaway vehicle. We don't go into that, but nobody is consulting victims of crime, and most importantly, victims on e-bikes and by e-bikes in the park. That wasn't surveyed. So where is the data being collected and by whom? Who are the stakeholders that are really the ones that are responsible for the information that go, that answering these surveys so that boards can say, hey, this is what the community wants. We don't think it's what the community wants, and we'd like full transparency. We don't think e-vehicles belong in our parks or on our greenways. And we really hope that you will all agree, and not tonight, but consider in the future, because I know it's not a resolution night, supporting the banning of e-vehicles in our parks. And that would be based on the inaccurate stats on e-vehicle crashes. And something that I didn't touch on much, but hopefully someone here tonight will on Zoom. It's pretty against the ADA guidelines and very ageist and ableist to be covering burlap over pedestrian accessibility signals. And just the fact that the red lights turned to yellow, and just the fact that this whole design was done with this sort of attitude. And I've read, oh, it's good for older people because they want to ride e-bikes because they can't get up a hill. Talk to any older person if they want an e-bike, e-bikes in the park so they can ride them and get up the hills, or they want e-bikes out of the park so they can safely go to the only oasis that we have left in this city to escape e-bikes. Again, it's not about being against them. We should have a place to escape motors, just like cars. Great that they got out of the park, thank God. E-bikes should not be there. So elderly, disabled people are effectively driven out of the park because it becomes unsafe for them. That seems to be framed as public space, becoming usable only by the young and physically agile, and that undermines ADA integration principles. Communities that most use the parks were not surveyed. I already said that, a very small percentage, very low powered study when you look at how many people really live up here. And the design unfairly favors bikes, e-bikes over pedestrians and runners, who are the majority in the park. So again, we really hope that you are in line with Gail Brewer and 19 other council members who signed the bill 0060 last year to ban e-vehicles from our parks. Our councilwoman is for it. And it is what the majority of Upper West Side wants. And so we would love that representation in the community boards. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Very illuminating, excellent presentation, Janet. We're going to take questions right now, and we are going to start with the people who are in the room. I'm going to start with this section because almost everybody here arrived first, and then we'll take the people here who would like to speak. And then anyone online who is a guest who would also like to speak, we'll take them next. And last will be our own committee, both here in person and online. I do have a few guidelines I'd like to give you for tonight. Speakers will only have 1 minute to speak, and that is because we have many people online and we'd like to get out of here before it gets to be too late. We are only taking questions that are based on bikes in the park. We're not talking about anything else. It's and if you start to talk about something else, I warn you that I'm going to interrupt you, so please try to keep on topic tonight, okay? And with that, let's start.
Yeah, and when you come up, for the folks in the room, please come and sit at the table, so that way we can hear, and the folks online can also see you and hear you, and introduce yourselves.
Right.
And that would be very helpful.
We're doing a time limit of 1 minute. per
1
person.
minute per
Okay.
person. Is there anyone who would like to come up to speak from
Yes,
this section
please,
over
come
here?
on.
Sit here.
Yes,
Yeah,
please,
sure.
welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is Christy Sailors. For the last 10 years, I would ride my folding bicycle in Central Park in season 3 to 4 times a day. I can no longer do that. It's too scary. I'm 70 years old. I've seen too much. I've seen too many close calls and I've seen too many accidents. This is a big hole in my life. I use the park a lot for exercise. And I miss riding my bike in the park very much. But these e-bikes are heavy. They're quiet. They go too fast. The driver's time is limited in the amount of time they have to slow down. The commercial delivery bicycles in the park that have been invited in have just increased the speed and aggression. Those cyclists are not in the park to enjoy it. They're there to go as fast as they can to make their deliveries. It's unthinkable now that this mix is just chaos in the park. So I'm very much pleading with you to support a ban of e-bikes and turn the park back over to recreational use, that we're not taking our lives in our hands.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you.
very
Thank you
much.
for listening.
Please come.
Please. One moment.
I'm assuming
while
that's
we
a timer.
figure out what's going on here. in my
Yes.
phone.
Before you've even begun.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for letting me speak. I'm Judy Polson. I have lived in the same apartment on the Upper West Side on West 67th Street for 35 years. I used to routinely cross the park for medical appointments and whatnot. I no longer do that for all the reasons that have already been mentioned. It's simply too dangerous. I turned 70 last year and my bones are not what they used to be. I'd also like to mention that my partner commutes to work by walking across the park 5 days a week, across and back. He is infuriated by the pedestrian signs being covered up by burlap. He sees no other interpretation of that aside from you as a pedestrian do not have a right to cross the street. And I've talked to the police and they're like, that's not true, but that's the message that's really being sent. So thank you for letting Janet speak. Thank you for your support of this. And I do ask you, let's find a way to keep e-bikes out of the park. Let's find a way to make that rule and enforce it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Please. Hello,
Hi there.
welcome back.
Welcome back, yes. So my name's Christina Hansen. I'm a carriage driver in Central Park and have been for 14 years. I was here in September on a different topic. But I can tell you that what I see in the park drives with the e-bikes is every day there's more and more. What I've seen a proliferation of, even since Janet was collecting this data in October, are e-bike cargo bikes, these trailers from Whole Foods, these trailers from Amazon, even the 800-pound Amazon like cargo trailers that weigh as much as the lightest carriage in Central Park, and they go 15, 20 miles an hour. The park was not designed for commercial vehicles. Even when we had cars in the park, they were not supposed to be commercial traffic. There was not supposed to be trucks or anything like that. Now we have these e-trucks in there, and we would never allow, Transportation Alternatives spent 50 years getting cars out of the park. Would we let a Tesla in there just because it's electric? We wouldn't. And now we have these cargo bikes. This is alienation of public parkland. Commercial through traffic for deliveries is not a park use, period, end of story. And, there's nobody really riding e-bikes hardly at all for recreation in the park. There's a few people, but the vast majority is how fast can we go through the park as they cut through? And that's not what the park drives were designed for. It's not, safe. And it's just not, it just really should come to an end. I know Conservancy says we can't do anything about it. The genie's out of the bottle. They certainly can. They got the cars out of the park.
And they asked for a ban on purchase, so.
Well, you know, I mean, we can get in, we're not gonna get into
I know,
that,
but
but
I'm just saying,
I'm saying,
yeah.
like, we are not the
Not
ones
tonight,
that are the
but
safety problems,
It'll be
so.
back on our.
And that was, you know, they said there's not room for carriages in the park anymore. The reason why there's
Thank
not room is because
Thank
of
you.
hundreds of e-bikes every day.
Yeah.
People having to run across the.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Please.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Janet. I'm Peggy Yanis. I live on the east side, but I spend a lot of time on the west side. I used to walk through the park all the time. Tonight I took a bus to come over here. The pedestrian paths into the park and in the park are no longer safe. I've been dodging the e-bikes, and what happens is they curse me out. I am on a pedestrian pathway and they are screaming at me, giving me the finger and cursing me out. And the parks has said, oh, we put up signs, dismount. They ignore the signs. The signs are irrelevant. You have to get you got the cars out, bring them back compared to the bikes. So it's safer longer. Cars, they weren't on the pedestrian paths now. So I rarely go for a walk anymore in Central Park. It's not serene to be cursed out and yelled at, and the way things are going in New York City, sometimes I'm afraid somebody's gonna pull a knife out on me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on this side who would like to speak? Please come on up if you don't mind. Start by giving us your name, please. for the record.
Lynn Glassner, I live on the west side. I've lived there for more than 40 years at this point. And I used to go to the park all the time. But now, since I have to cross the roadway to get to the reservoir path, I don't do it anymore because you can't cross that safely. And I don't understand why all this public space is being given up to bikes instead of leaving it for pedestrian use and runners. We certainly outnumber them. And it doesn't matter whether it's an e-bike for commercial use or recreational or commuting. It's still an e-bike and they don't obey traffic signs. And now, instead of giving them some consequences for not obeying the traffic signs, we're taking away the traffic signs. It doesn't make any sense. So if somebody could explain to me why this is all reverse, it seems like it's upside down. So I don't know if anybody has any ideas about why we are giving them the leverage and not other people when they're outnumbered.
Thank you.
I don't understand. Thank you.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
Okay. People on this side would like to speak? Okay, you were here first, so why don't you come up?
With a great smile.
I'll try to smile. Okay, my name is Ira Gershengorn, to the owl, yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm seeing from the video is that there were bikes, regular bikes, not e-bikes.
There are tons of city bikes in that video. We can watch it again.
I'll have to look at it again.
Look at it 100 times.
But
Pedicabs.
the issue is the pedicab's an e-bike, yeah, but that's, are you blocking those too? I know, I
Very
do cycle,
legal in the park.
I cycle, yeah,
Pedicabs are not allowed in the park.
oh, really?
Motorized pedicabs are not legal.
You're using your time back. from
I'm
this
a
conversation.
I ride cycling without age, and I hear there's an exemption for them. They're e-bikes. We don't go, we try to avoid going over 10 miles an hour, but the problems you're stating are issues with police reports. The police aren't doing their jobs. It's too hard to get coverage if you get hit. I got hit, and police report, I had to have it modified.
I'm so sorry.
I just want to say something because I have to say, I'm trying to say that the stats are so wrong. E-bikes are so much more dangerous and there's so many more crashes because I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying for various reasons, they're not reported most of the time. So we have to keep that in mind when we're designing an entire park around e-bike.
I agree. I just think that
That's what I meant.
banning e-bikes may not fix your problem.
Not banning them anywhere but the park, That's what we want.
Andy?
Thanks, Ira.
Hi, Andy Rosenthal. My comments are gonna be controversial. E-Vista is not a safety organization. I could counter almost every statistic that you gave tonight with different facts. E-Vista has come out against known science like daylighting. It has not supported other things that TA hasn't been involved in, like red light cameras and lowering speed limits in Sammy's Law.
We've
Yeah,
never come out against Sammy's Law, ever.
Okay, but
In a
you've
million
come out
years.
against TA again and again and again.
True.
And they're the ones that did get cars out, as you acknowledged tonight. Get on board with the full safety program backed by science, and I would love to support you, but I can't because you spread falsehoods every time you speak. The
The
survey,
hypocrisy
the
is-
survey that was sent out was answered by many, many people. I filled it out. I don't know why 1,500 of your supporters did not fill it out. Let's work together. There are underpasses that will allow almost everybody here to access the Great Lawn or to access the reservoir or the Sheep's Meadow.
They have to
Thank you
walk a
so
mile
much.
out of the way to use a pass?
Thank you.
They have to walk a
Thank
mile
you.
to get to one or half a mile? I can work on every fact you gave me.
We didn't get a survey. We didn't get
Anyone else
surveys.
over here?
None of my friends on the.
You're outnumbered, sorry.
Janet, we're going to ask you.
It's Harvey
to let
Goldberg.
the-
Yeah, they
Oh,
had
I'm
to come.
sorry, but when
Louder,
somebody comes
and
at
that-
me like that, it's
I
a little.
understand, I
yeah,
understand,
that
but
was a lot.
it's their 1 minute. Thank
I'm happy
you.
That was
discuss
bullying.
further, but
I
I've given
understand
60
that.
seconds.
Thank you.
Okay,
Everything
so
was
we'll
fair.
begin.
You sat
Yeah.
down and you were like, "Rrrr." I'm sorry,
right.
but I'm gonna speak to that.
Okay. That's why I came in
Do you,
person.
what do you want to speak to it now?
I just, listen, you have every right to talk, but calling us not a safety organization, what is our agenda? We have no money, let me finish, none, like TA, that gets money from City Bike, Uber, DoorDash. I didn't talk about TA, I didn't name them tonight, you did. We are unfunded. What could be our hidden agenda, really?
What's my hidden agenda here tonight also?
We should.
You're duped by TA or you're somehow
All
supporting
right,
them?
I think Barbara, we should move on. This is not very productive.
Okay.
I agree.
I just wanted to give Janet the
I agree.
opportunity to rebut.
If you
Um,
could save all your rebuttal till the very end, if there are points
I
that you
will.
want to make.
If someone acts
but I
that way,
do-
it's gonna be
I
hard, but I will.
understand that, but we do
I
need
will.
to
Sorry
give
for me to
each
sit here and
individual
listen.
Okay,
person
Andy, that's it.
that comes up the full 1
I've
minute.
been biking in
Thank
Central
you.
Park for
Harvey, did you
recreation.
Start with your-
Harvey
Dr.
Goldberg, I live
Goldberg.
on the west side.
Oh, okay.
I've been biking in Central Park for recreation since I came to Manhattan, 1972. Since I was knocked down by a city e-bike while commuting to work and broke my collarbone and got a concussion, I've been a little scared of it. And I've been scared to bike in Central Park because of these e-bikes. My wife is scared to bike in Central Park because of the e-bikes. This Central Park belongs to the citizens of New York, the people who live in New York, and not special interests. Please get them out of the park.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you,
very
Dr.
much.
Goldberg.
Okay, is there anybody else in the room who's a guest who would like to speak? Okay, then we're gonna go on to the people who are online.
We're gonna go through the folks that want to speak online. If you want to speak, please raise your hand. I'm gonna call 3 people at once and you can go in the order in which I call. So the first person, I am going to unmute. The first 3 people will be Sandy Rayburn, Maria Ferrari, and Carrie Michaels. So it's Sandy Rayburn, Maria Ferrari, Carrie Michaels. Sandy, you can go first. You have been unmuted.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Adler. Thank you for having me. I hope to be clear this evening. The Central Park Drive redesign is not just bad policy, not just unsafe, it's illegal. Under Title II of the Americans with Disability Act, 42 U.S.C. 12132, and its implementing regulations at 28 CFR 35, public entities may not operate facilities in ways that exclude, disadvantages, or subjects people with disabilities to unequal treatment. Central Park is a, quote, public facility. Its drives, crossings, and walkways are fully covered by the ADA. Unfortunately, the park's redesign introduces and prioritizes motorized e-vehicles in one of the city's few spaces historically relied on by seniors and the disabled. New Yorkers need a safe, vehicle-free environment.
Ms.
Federal.
Rayburn, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Carrie Michaels. Carrie, you can speak.
Hi, I thought there was someone ahead of me. I thought I was third listed. Okay, so hi, I am an avid cyclist, been cycling for over 30 years here in the city. Since I got hit in the park and seriously injured, had to go to the emergency room, suffered a lot of injuries. It is no longer really comfortable for me to ride in the park. I don't want to be repetitive, but I'm going to say it. City Bike and Deliveristas do not obey the laws, and they're going too fast. And I see people smirking on this call, and it really, really upsets me because it's unfair. If you haven't been hit, if you're not a cyclist, if you're not a pedestrian, an elderly person, and you're not affected by the e-bikes on a daily basis, don't smirk. I see it. I can call the people out. The TA people, there is an advantage. You're a 501c3 corporation and you lobby politicians and you get donations from different organizations that are to your advantage. I'm tired of this fascist crap saying that I am not in danger and saying that what I see and what I experience is not true. I'm tired of the gaslighting. I've been hit twice on my bike by e-bikes.
Thank you,
It's got to
Carrie.
stop. And so does the smirking. I don't appreciate people smirking and laughing at victims.
Maria, you are unmuted. You can talk.
Thank you. E-bikes are already a threat on our city streets. They have no place in our city parks. A year ago, I, 72 years old, was hit by an e-bike on 57th Street and 8th Avenue that was running through a red light that literally went through in a blur. It was going so fast. I was flung up in the air and I twisted in the air and landed on the back of my head and my right elbow. Parks are for recreation, for strolling, for relaxing. We should not fear being confronted by speeding e-bikes running through red lights, and the red lights should be returned to Central Park. If the bike riders who don't stop at red lights, they should be ticketed. If they ignore red lights, they will definitely ignore the yellow yield lights. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. The next three people up are Ron Wisniewski, Mary Avancho, and Laura Sachs. So it's Ron Wisniewski, Mary Avancho, and Laura Sachs. Ron, you can go first.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Ron Wisniewski. I'm also with the e-vehicle safety. I wanted to ask your committee to perhaps that you might do a service by investigating the Central Park Conservancy and find out what's going on with this organization. Betsy Smith, the CEO and chairman, makes $1 million a year. Do you understand that? That is more than the mayor, and it's way out of line for an organization that's a nonprofit. Now, she cannot do anything about the e-bikes. I can't interfere with laws. I can't do anything. She said it so many times. Suddenly, she's ubiquitous on television trying to get rid of the horses. Now, there's something going on here. She's, because if you had some integrity, you would see with your own eyes what's going on, and you would try to solve it, because her mission is to keep that park tranquil and beautiful for us to use for our mental health. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ron. Mary Avancho.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon or good evening, everybody. I've lived on the Upper West Side for 47 years, and the best thing about New York, hands down, is Central Park. Hands down, love it. I was around for, the protesting of the cars and whatnot, and that was the best thing that happened to Central Park since I've been here, was to get them out of the park. I used to be a big runner, now I'm a walker, and I'm afraid to walk in the park. So I agree with what everybody said. I think Janet gave a great presentation, and everyone afterwards who was against having these bikes in the park really spoke well. I do wish that people got along better. I do have a hard time understanding why there's such opposition and anger from the people who are opposed to having these e-bikes not in the park. Because it's really about safety. So when you throw out numbers and say it was this bike or it was this many numbers, you're really not solving any problem. You're not working together with the community. So,
Thank you, Mary. Thank you.
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next person is Laura Sachs. Laura?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Laura Sachs. I'm a public member of the Transportation Committee, a regular cyclist. I'd like to just, for the record, remind everyone the park was always designed for respite from the city, but it was also designed for carriages and pedestrians and horses and bicycles. So I would like us to remember the park is not a single purpose just for recreation. But we can all agree safety is the concern. Regardless of your side of the argument, safety is the number one issue here. And I think we can all agree reducing speed and enforcing the laws, specifically bikes off the pedestrian paths. So if we can incrementally, I think a full stop ban is unrealistic and inappropriate, quite frankly. But I think safety measures need to happen, and let's start with reducing speed and enforcing the laws we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. If anyone online would like to speak, please raise your hand. The next two people, oops. I think they just lowered it.
Oh,
Oh,
Nina?
Yeah.
Fleiss?
Nina Fleiss and Jane Gallagher. And then Nadine Cohen. You three have been unmuted. Nina, you can go first.
Great, thank you so much. I worked on the original campaign with Fritz Moeller many years ago to get cars out of the park. And that was an amazing thing. And we felt very safe. And now with the proliferation of e-vehicles, we no longer feel safe. My husband rides bikes in the park, and every time he comes back, I'm grateful to see him in one piece. I walk in the park and run, and it's really dangerous. But I wanted to say one thing about the yellow light. If you don't know, and you're a tourist or you're somebody on an e-bike, and there are plenty of tourists on e-bikes, you think it's a yellow light like a regular traffic light. What do people do in cars when they see yellow lights? They speed up to get through before the light turns red. And I have seen so many bicycles just see the yellow lights and speed up because they don't know that it's not going to turn red. So it has the actual opposite effect. It is not slowing people down, it's speeding many up. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jane Gallagher.
Yes, thank you. I use our parks extensively and want a safe environment. E-bikes should be banned from any park pathway that are for pedestrian use. E-bikes function as moving vehicles and should only be on appropriate park roads for vehicles, not where I am trying to recreate. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. And then we have Nadine Cohen.
Hi, I just want to say that I'm in the park every day. I have two small dogs. Unfortunately, I can only use the right path at 72. I live on 72. Occasionally, I'll sit down at the bench, but I will not cross the road because I'm watching the bicycles, which I didn't even know they were already equipped, the tourist bikes, the tour bikes, let's call them. Most of them follow the rules, but some of them come flying down that hill, making that right turn. And I actually think that they are going to smash down on the right side or left, just the way they are driving. There's no enforcement, and I can no longer cross the road. Thank you.
Thank you. That ends the online questions. I don't have anybody else in the queue.
Okay, so now let's go to board members who are here.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Comments or questions?
Either. Any
Okay.
comments or questions?
Comments are, no, it can be treacherous. I've obviously lived in this neighborhood for a long time, and Central Park has been an integral part of my life. And I love the idea of walking under. Sometimes I do walk beneath them. But I live on 85th Street, so I don't see any reason why I have to walk to 81st Street. Sometimes I would like to cross. There are times when, I'm afraid to cross because of the e-bikes, because of the pedal assist bikes. There are also times in the past that, you know, you've got the guys in spandex and the women in spandex and the racing bikes. They're tough, but they're not as many of them. But what we do have is a proliferation of commercial bike riders, commuter bike riders who are on e-bikes zooming down the park. So put them all together, it is untenable. And I think that's what people are responding to. It's very difficult. I always have a small dog, but so it's difficult to cross. And the park is for everyone. I think bikes should be in the park, but not electric bikes that weigh 150 pounds, whether they're class 1, class 2, or class 3.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Jamie?
I'll just say that life in New York has always been about trying to live in a chaotic city together. You know, lots of different people, lots of different vehicles, lots going on. That's what being in New York is all about. And I try to think about whether it's always been that way. Is it more chaotic now, or does it just seem that way because we're living here now? I will echo Laura's point about Central Park. The first car drove through Central Park in 1908, long before any of us were here.
1899. First car in Central Park.
Oh, I'm sorry, the first car accident.
First car accident.
The first pedestrian was hit on New Year's Eve, 1908, sorry.
Oh, my goodness.
So thank
In the
you.
park,
So,
yeah.
so the more relevant stat in the park.
Yes, in the.
On the drive in 1908 by Model T. Okay, so now I'm way off my point. I want to just flag that for me, as we talk about the park, the ADA concern is particularly, it seems to me that it's very stark that the ADA issue does not seem to have been taken into appropriate consideration in the redesign. The rest of it seems quite complicated, as the e-bike issue is complicated throughout the city. But the ADA redesign troubles me quite a bit, or the lack of ADA consideration in the redesign. So that's the one thing I would flag, but you know, this is your committee. I'm just here as a guest.
Yes,
But I, that has troubled me each time we've talked about the redesign. So I pass to the next member.
Oh, okay, great. Hi, everybody. I'm Hayden Brockett. I live on the west side 107. I have just a little background. I'm so grateful to my forebears who brought this intersection together, and brought all this infrastructure, I meant to say, together and kept it safe, and for all the people who helped, you know, I think ban cars. That is just an impressive thing that I know took 50 years. I'm really glad that we did that. I was surprised to hear at least one person say today we wanted to bring cars back, but I know that's not a majority position. So in the spirit of like working together, I know that there's been some hard feelings. I just did have a couple of questions, 4 questions, I think. I hope it won't take too long. And then I apologize for
That's okay.
a few minutes late. When you were walking in, so when I was walking in, excuse me, you had said something about, you know, the redesign has resulted in it being like a fast lane, which is partly my experience too. Do you have some suggestions for redesigns to slow down traffic? I'm just trying to focus on design, because I think that's one of those areas where I know there's an ask for ban. We've heard some people who don't think the ban's a good idea. Just about redesign, is there something that just slow down the traffic of cyclists of all kinds, if anything? Do you have any thoughts about that? Is that not part of your recommendation?
It can't be part of it because there's absolutely no enforcement whatsoever. So when you put it, when you ask me a question.
No.
So when you put a speed limit, say 15 miles per hour, that sounds fabulous, 15 miles per hour.
Completely agree.
But no one's ever gonna go 15 miles per hour.
And the only reason I'm trying to focus on sincerely the question.
I appreciate your
of
sincerity.
redesign, because of the exact issue that you put your finger on. You know, we've finally lowered the speeds on our streets for cars, trucks, and in some instances, micromobility. And the enforcement isn't there all the time. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
What we need is
True.
redesigns, because then it is impossible, no matter whether there's a cop there or not, anyone on our street. So that's what I'm trying to ask about, specifically on the park. If you haven't given any thought to this, it's totally fine. I'm just curious if you have.
Well, you're very polite. It's not that so much about giving a thought. We want the e-bikes out of the park.
I totally get that.
So when that is your ultimate goal, you're not thinking about how to redesign what we think is already so dangerous to make it a little less dangerous, in all fairness.
Totally cool.
But thank you.
Maybe that answers my next question, which is fine.
Okay.
I heard a lot of concerns about the burlap. I agree that the burlap is not a clear message. So maybe this will, I mean, I heard some suggestions about bringing back the red light. My experience of the red light as a pedestrian, as a cyclist with my kid in the park, is that it's extremely confusing and totally not followed. And I don't think red lights worked. I'll just put my car at the table. I would love there to be some redesigns that would slow those crossings, any kind of vehicles, down at that point. And I'm, again, if that's not something you focus on, that's totally fine. But if you have, I just wanted to ask you.
No, but I'll think about it. That at the end of the day, we have an ultimate goal, so we're not trying to sort of nibble around the edges. We're trying to get them out. But we don't think that the design was well done. We talked to police that say the emergency vehicles weren't even figured into some of the redesign. You told us about over at Central Park Precinct that the emergency vehicles weren't properly configured. I mean, there are a lot of complaints I didn't go into.
Well, no, that's what we had.
Can I
We had the
ask a
city.
question about the burlap?
Sure.
Is my understanding from the park redesign session
Right.
is that the burlap is temporary?
That's my
Been up
understanding
since,
too.
I think, July. That's a long
I mean,
temporary.
but they're not taking those.
I actually have an answer.
Oh,
Okay, I thought the burlap, I'm sorry to
The
interrupt,
burlap-
but I thought the burlap was there to signal that something else is coming in the
Yes,
next
and
iteration of
the
the design.
burlaps, that what it's signaling is that push button to cross is going away.
So
Because
they
they're
are
gonna
coming
come-
to dismantle.
They're going to take that down and just put up a solid, right now you've got the stoplights that are theoretically functional stoplights that could cycle through red, yellow, green.
Right.
But they're just on flashing yellow.
Right.
They're going to replace those with simple flashing yellow signs that are not stoplights, so they're gonna remove that button altogether.
Okay, thank you, that's an answer,
Here you go.
not the one I wanted.
Yeah, she knows. her stuff.
I think that we heard a lot of complaints about bikes on pedestrian paths, which are currently illegal. And I
Right.
agree
Yes.
that is like a problem. I mean, I think that's a design problem that I would love to send. I mean, when Conservancy was here, we asked about that.
Yeah.
We heard a lot of complaints about that. I really want them to come back and help us think about how best to redesign the entire park so that you're not tempted as a cyclist.
Yeah.
And we need to figure this out because people who are in wheelchairs need to be able to access those parks, right? Like, that's a major concern that I've always had about banning e-vehicles. I know that's not your intention. I know that, but I think the way it would be written, we have to be very careful about what we as a committee would want to do to say where we are talking about what e-vehicles are, all that stuff. My point about that is simply, I want this Central Park Conservancy and maybe DOT, I think they have something to do with FAST, I could be wrong about that, but to say, we want there to be infrastructure that prevents a lot of the negative interactions with that.
But the question is, what kind of infrastructure is going to happen? We're talking specifically about electric vehicles, that's it. And so what kind of infrastructure is
Right.
going to stop?
Well, there's
it's
bollards,
'cause
there's
it's all-
raised, there's bollards, right?
They're not gonna put
There's-
bollards in the middle of this.
Hayden, you know, we're really getting off topic
Yeah,
now,
very
if you
sorry.
don't mind.
Oh, I mean, I heard a lot of complaints about bikes in the park.
No, you were
and on the-
specifically
Absolutely.
electric bikes.
No, I heard a lot of complaints about all kinds of bikes. And
No,
sorry, I
Then
totally
you're
hear you, Barbara. I'll move
misinterpreting. I
on.
don't think that was brought up at all.
Several folks online. My only point is that I would ask in the genuine spirit of like common ground, to what extent you thought and had taken a position. And because I think this will help your position, maybe not. If we want there to be a change in the reality of who is on these paths, have you taken a position about if the answer is no, that's totally fine. I would love for you to think about it, about the request that we did hear at our last meeting for better infrastructure through the transverses and around the park, so that the people who we heard a lot about people commuting through. I don't think anyone wants to be commuting through on, those transverses right now.
Right.
We agree on that.
We're definitely open to the transverse idea. I mean, that might be the answer, if people have to speed to get through, maybe they'll go through it even more quickly because it's straight across. But right now, there's just nowhere for them to go because it's small sidewalks and whatnot. But that's definitely a conversation.
Okay, I'm hearing some room for common ground.
Well, I just want to say that you're extremely easy to talk to.
Oh, thank you.
And you're really kind, even though I know we don't, I can tell, totally agree on probably the majority. It's the kind of conversation I like to have, so thank you.
Good, me too. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And I was like a couple.
Thank you, thank you.
Bell has his hand raised.
Yep. Okay, the chair of our board, Alex Bell, has been patiently
I just want
waiting.
to say Hayden is a nice guy to talk to, so that makes sense. Thank you
Oh,
so
yes.
much, Janet, for coming. I think this was great. Two things for me. One is I thought Barbara and I had a great time one Sunday going to the park together. So I feel like next time we discuss this topic, another good item would be on site. All of us
Yes.
going on site to the park in quorum. The other thing I was going to ask is I think the part about reporting data is one of the things that really caught my eye and was very interesting to me. And I really want to dig in more there. I asked a friend of mine who works at the DOT, but who wants to remain nameless. And he said there's some other data source I should look at. The Department of Health and Mental Hygiene Sparks database about injuries from a hospital, but I haven't actually looked at it yet, and I actually don't know where to find it. But I'm wondering, does that have any of the data of because that supposedly has people saying like, oh, I'm in the hospital, I got stabbed, and then that's how the FBI says the number of people who are getting stabbed or something. So have you heard about this database at all?
I have heard of it. Sort of haven't gotten far with it, but heard of it. We also, have recently, as you see, been contacting more ER doctors, and that's what's really making us go, oh my gosh. We don't want to necessarily quote them if it's not written somewhere where somebody's interviewing, like in the City Journal, where I quoted the 220 at Bellevue. She said it, Dr. Angela Pfaff. But we know about all of the ER doctors we talked to saying the same thing. So we could also go to all 54 ERs and kind of get an idea, but it's still, that's a lot of work. It would be great if there was just one database. It would be fabulous. And I'm glad you're concerned about that because it really is, I think, at the core of our mission being a safety organization is that we don't think people understand how bad it is. I mean, think about the quality of life for even the people that aren't hit, that are almost hit, how it changes how they walk around the city or how they walk around the park. Take that out of it and let's just talk about the people hit. So much more than anybody has any idea. It's a big city. People are being hit every day by e-vehicles and people on e-vehicles are getting hurt. There was an e-vehicle rider killed. Del Barista hit a pedestrian. It doesn't matter how it happened or what had happened. And he flew off and hit his head on the curb last summer and died in the park. I'm sure you all know about that. So, we're concerned about e-vehicle riders as well. My background is a pretty liberal Democrat my whole life. And I don't want anything, our whole group doesn't want anything that's unfair to anybody, but it is also unfair to a lot of pedestrians, especially older and vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Doug has his hand. Doug.
Hi.
Doug?
Yeah, hi. Well, thanks for putting this together. I actually do believe that Olmsted's original design was for recreation. And if you do a little research, obviously things have changed with the size of vehicles, but the transverses were really where transportation, commerce was, and the rest of the park was really not for commerce. So we, as a famous psychologist once said, nothing changes until it becomes what it is. And I really do think that there's a lot of denial and there's a lot of, if I, said the Hatfields and the McCoys, that the reality is that there is a problem. And I thank Alex for bringing it up. I think the data is very off. I've been at countless number of police community council meetings. I live, my own life walking and taking my own life, walking down the street and feeling scared. Growing up in the city, never feeling more nervous about walking the streets. We did pass a resolution. Sorry, some of my fellow board members may not want to hear this, and some of the special interest groups don't want me to say this, but CB7 is on record for passing a resolution calling for registration and licensing and insurance for e-bikes. Now, I am conflicted about this. simplifying this to the commercial use. I do believe, as much as I love and support the deliveristas, I don't think they should be in the park. I don't think Amazon delivery, last mile vehicles should be there. If these vehicles were registered and plated like auto vehicles, like for example, you know, there's a commercial vehicle, they can park in certain spots and they can't. They're distinguished between a private vehicle and a commercial vehicle. If professional e-bikes were registered and they were allowed to ride commercially and they were not allowed in the park, it'd be very, very clear. I do believe that there are some e-bikes and pedal assist that are absolutely being used for recreation. And some of the bikes, Alex, posted a really great game that Claude created, which was to even distinguish between the bikes. Full disclosure, I did some work for Specialized Bicycles, and they have unbelievable bikes that look like conventional pedal bikes, but they're actually e-bikes. They have the batteries built into the framework. So what am I saying? We have had a lack of enforcement, a lack of accountability for a long time, and there really is a problem. I don't know ultimately what the problem is, if it's a complete ban. I do hear that that's what's being called for here, but I do think something has to improve. I mean, the fact that we've seemed to have lost the fundamental law that pedestrians always have the right of way. This is not only in street and traffic law. This is it's always the less maneuverable, the more vulnerable that always have the right of way. In maritime law, that is exactly what it is. In aviation law, because I've flown airplanes, the least maneuverable have the right of way. And we've seemed to have lost that. So I don't know what the solution is, if it's going to be a partial ban, a full ban, but something has to improve. I wish, it's like, I have a dream that I wish we all got along, and that even if we had all of the different kinds of vehicles, that people were following the law, yielding to pedestrians, stopping on the signals. Wouldn't it be wonderful? But the behavior is awful. And because there is lack of infrastructure, lack of enforcement, lack of accountability, lack of transparency, because we don't know who they are. We don't have plates or identification to identify someone after they have been in an accident. I did a lot of talking here, and I don't think I've really come to any conclusion, but I just wanted to share kind of my thoughts and heart, because something has to change, and I hope we'll get to improvement. Safety is
Thank you, Doug. Doug is one of our community board members.
Thank you, Doug.
Daria, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick comment, and then I also had a question. I just wanted to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I think, this board and this committee always welcomes different perspectives, and we welcome everyone to come and talk.
Absolutely.
It absolutely informs us in the future for various things, and it's really important for us to get these different perspectives in. So thank you, everybody, for attending in person and online. It was a wet day, so we really appreciate that effort. The only question I had, and I know that the data is very incomplete, so it's not something that you may be able to answer at this point, but do we have a breakdown of, what portions of the bikes that are in the park, if they're recreational versus commercial that use the park? Do we also know, for example, of the subset of the accidents that you showed us, were they primarily recreational or commercial? Is there any breakdown of that?
That's a really good question. I mean, it's a very small, it's not a highly
It's a very
powered,
small
it's
subset.
12,
Right, I know.
13 acts. It's 15 total, but I don't have pictures for a couple.
Right.
In a 6-week period, but there were stand-up e-scooter in there for sure. That was one of the worst. There were a few city bikes in there. There were, this woman right here will know. There were regular, people just joyriding or whatever on their e-bike, and then there were deliveristas. So it was really kind of a little bit all over the place, to be honest. Yeah, we definitely think city bikers, can be pretty dangerous in the riding. We're not just singling out, I'm not saying all city bikers, but we're not
Right.
singling out, one group. We think it's sort of across the board with e-bikes.
Right, I understand. I think that, and that's my one. And then also, I think the only point I wanted to make was just with that one. I guess because you put all the e-bikes together, it really is, it doesn't, you don't necessarily have to break it out because it all really is like one group for you. But I think for the purpose of data, I personally would like to see that breakdown. So if there's a way for us to track that down, or if a way for us to to kind of
Wow.
figure it
I
out.
mean-
I know the data, that's the part, the data gathering is always the most difficult.
I
and
mean,
this-
you know, we gather data. I mean,
Yeah.
we're an unpaid organization. I sell
Yeah.
HIV prep for a living. You know, I have a full-time job and I'm a caretaker for my elderly mom. So I don't have a lot of time, but I do run
Right.
around and we run around to ERs and kind of, you know, try to get what we can get. And we're gonna try to do more of that. We really want to look into that because I think the best thing we can do is get the data from the emergency rooms, but that's not gonna tell you what kind of vehicle. A lot of time, the person's just like, I was hit by a heavy, fast vehicle. I don't know if it was a stand-up or a, I don't know.
What percentage of the people who were hit had the person who hit them stop?
Well, in our group of 119, 6 people, only 6, so 113 fled. And because I have the breakdown of every one of our victims, I mean, that's our little group of a registry. So out of 119 victims, all but 6 of the riders fled. And only 8 have police reports that show up on the DOT. So again, that's 119. I know that's not a big, you know, but
Right,
it
not
is
necessarily
a sampling.
representative,
And
yeah.
it falls in line with what we're hearing at the ERs when we hear 220 and, you know, a
Right.
daily, one ER having 1 a day and there's 54 ERs. So Alex is right. It's the core of our message. What we're always trying to get to is stop, saying that it's some other vehicle that's the problem or this vehicle. They're all a problem. A victim is a victim is a victim is a victim. And to say, well, this vehicle kills more, first of all, any vehicle breaking the law and, you know, should be held to account. But some are licensed, registered, inspected, insured, and some are not. E-bikes are heavier than bicycles. They do a lot more damage. We have some now out there that weigh 150 pounds. If you've seen the big, fat, thick, tired ones, those certainly aren't bicycles. So, you know, at the end of the day, it's about safety. That's what we care about. We really just want it to be safer. And we do advocate a lot for the older. We feel like older New Yorkers and disabled get forgotten. They can't, most of them don't ride e-bikes. Most of them don't ride bicycles. Let's not forget, we're all going to be there. I'm closer than some of you. Some of you are farther along than me, but we're all going to be there and our parents are there. And that's one reason I started this group. Because I love old people.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be there. So it's not totally unselfish.
I mean, I think we all agree on that part too.
Yeah.
So we all do
I
too.
did have like 5 sentences that just things that I didn't get to say because in the moment, and they're not anything. I just didn't get to say them in the moment. And you're right, you know, I interrupted. It's just 5 quick things. It did come up, and I'm not trying to start anything about us being against Sammy's Law. We have never in our lives said that we are against in any way Sammy's Law. Never.
You're against daylighting is what I said. I didn't say you were against Sammy's Law.
Have we, well, we haven't
All right.
publicly. Sure.
Thank you. No back and forth. Thank you.
Excuse me, Andy,
We are
you have to let
Andy,
her.
no
We are,
rebuttal.
this is ours,
respond
we are,
to
but thank you. But you know what? I was talking about Sammy's Law, okay?
She was attacking my statement.
Attacking
I understand,
it,
but we
it was-
asked her to not speak during your
I think
statement. We're
anybody
gonna
that
ask
watches
you
this
to-
video
for
can
the
see
same
that it was
courtesy.
a
And
little
we
bit more aggressive.
we have to wrap this up. We have a whole other presentation.
We are the
tonight,
majority,
so-
though. I just want to say 2 minutes, 1 minute. We are the majority. We prove it at rallies. We prove it at town halls. We prove it at community boards when we do show up. We're always the majority. Always. And that needs to be noticed. We are a safety organization. We advocate for victims, which is extremely important. And it seems like sometimes our opposition isn't concerned about our victims, and it's heartbreaking. But we are the organization that asked Alex Forrest and Brad Hoylman to write A8450S703, excuse me, I need water, which is the moped bill. And that is that mopeds can no longer be sold in shops without that point of sale registration. So we asked for that bill to be written. We sat down with them. They wrote it. It passed. And I'm not saying, aren't we great? But when people say we aren't safety organization, I got a list and that's at the top of them. We don't want to erase victims of any bike, of any kind of accident. And I just want to say that Christine Burtett, I need to give her credit. She's the one with the quote, Central parks are for recreation and relaxation, not transportation. I cannot take credit for that. It comes from Christine Burtett. And helmets save lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much.
I just want to say one little thing, and that is that a couple of months ago, we had a public hearing at this committee. The room was filled to capacity. We had many, many people online. And we had DOT here, and we had many representatives from the Central Park Conservancy, including the people who designed this new iteration of the park. And we did not have a resolution at that point. We won't have a resolution tonight, but we did say that we are not going to give up on this issue until this issue was solved. And right now, this is the issue. Although there are some people who are totally opposed, I understand that. And I know that the TA people are very opposed to this, but the great majority of us are not opposed to this. And until this is an ongoing thing, we're going to continue to have be an ongoing thing. And Alex, I think it's a great idea. Let's meet out there in better weather when it's warm, when all the bikes are out, because when you go on a weekend now, it's so cold that you don't get a real sense of what's going on out there. And our public hearing was specifically on crossing the pedestrian drives. And I personally am terrified, and I've had a number of near misses, both on the drives and on the streets of New York City. Anyway, I will stop you. We have another presentation.
Thank you for your
Janet,
time.
so much.
Thank you for your
so
time.
much.
And Alex, thank you for caring about the stats. That means a lot. If anything, just having people understand what a problem that is a big reason for being here. Thank you so much, Barbara. Thank you, Daria.
Daria, right. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you. Thanks, Jenny.
So you're welcome to stay for our next issue. And it's
So
going
walk
to
my
be
doggy.
presented by, and actually Daria is going to do this, so. But it's Maisie Hast, who is our
Yes.
employee here at Community Board 7, put this together, and Daria, Maisie, you're on.
Maisie, would you like to sit here?
No, I'm all right.
Are you sure? Yeah.
No,
so
Maybe if
Macy-
you move up here so you can be seen.
The owls can catch me from over here, and I think I'm pretty good at projecting, but if you can't hear me, let me know.
Yeah.
Sorry, did you want to go first? Or do you
Yeah,
want
I
me to
just,
kind of-
it was just quickly that this next session is about neighborhood beautification efforts with NYC Parks. And this was something that was put together by Maisie Haft, who's our community coordinator. She reached out to many different agencies and got a bunch of folks to come and talk to us today, because we know that one of the things we get asked about at CV7 is how do we get more involved? How can we participate? And this being put together by this program put together by Maisie is really hopefully going to answer a lot of questions that community members have had for us. So Maisie, go ahead.
Great. Oh, God. Okay, so first, I just want to thank everyone, all the presenters that we invited tonight for waiting very patiently to join us. So we've got with us a few different representatives from parks to represent different aspects, parks, stewardship, forestry, and then we've got sanitation, as well as the Doe Fund, all of whom contribute towards the overall effort towards community beautification, and especially with the warm weather coming, with planting season being upon us. And as someone who here at the staff works on our block association cabinet, we receive a lot of questions about how to get involved, what are the rules, what are the regulations. I have this problem, but I'm not quite sure how to solve it. We thought this would be a nice way to almost hold something that we haven't necessarily done before, which is kind of an info session on what are the programs and what are the pathways. So with that in mind, I think we should start with the people here first. So Marissa or Chris from sanitation, or the Doe Fund, whichever one of you. Thank you again for your patience. We'll be ready. Let's go. I would love to start with one of you two.
Sure. Well, I'm happy to start us off here, and I appreciate all of your patience here. I know probably the last thing you want to see now is another slide deck, but I promise I will be very, very quick. So oh, sorry, go on.
It's all you.
Yeah.
You got it.
I represent the Doe Fund, which is a homeless services nonprofit that provides supplemental sanitation across New York City, including in Community District 7. So I just want to spend a few minutes to talk about some of the work that we do in the community, and of course answer any questions that folks have. You can probably see this charming person here on my screen in his uniform with his hoodie. And if hopefully you've seen folks with these uniforms out in the neighborhood. If not, hopefully you've seen folks like this photo. We call them the Men in Blue, or the Crew in Blue now, because we have women in the program. These are members of a homeless services program called Ready, Willing, and Able. And the whole point of it is to take folks who are experiencing homelessness and provide them with work opportunities, job training, connections to supportive services, so that they can not only play a part in keeping our communities clean and beautiful and trash-free, but also they're given the resources to overcome homelessness and close that revolving door once and for all by obtaining employment and housing. We cover 115 miles of New York City streets every week. In 2025 alone, our teams bagged over 3,300 tons of garbage while earning crucial savings for themselves to build up that cushion. And I'm delighted to share that since our program began in 1990, we've connected over 15,000 people to jobs and housing. So moving on, here's a little map of part of the district where you can see the blue lines represent routes that the Crew in Blue cover. So they start this program, first of all, of course, like I said, to start developing earnings and growing their savings, but it's also to develop essential skills that we build in our classes outside of the street cleaning. So things like teamwork, time management, work ethic, communication. These are all things for folks who, maybe are reentering after incarceration or have experiencing chronic homelessness. We really have to build up their workplace skills from the ground up. And so we've been able to, we've had the pleasure of operating in the community since 2002. We do it through contracts with the Columbus Avenue Business Improvement District. We also contract with the San Remo. And then the lines you can see on 72nd, 79th, and 86th, those are what we call goodwill routes. Those are not contracted, so we don't have a stream of income from a business improvement district or a city council member or what have you to fund those routes. We essentially operate those at a loss. But it's important to have the folks out there doing this work, making that money and keeping the neighborhood clean. Just sharing a couple social media posts from the Columbus Avenue Business Improvement District. Y'all probably saw, if you had the if you were unfortunate enough to be out and about for wide swaths of the blizzards, I guess plural, I should say, last month. I sincerely hope that you saw the folks in our program cleaning the streets and sidewalks of the mountains of snow. And in warmer weather, you can see our participant on the left is painting some street furniture. That is a small subsection of what we do in the community. Everything from garbage can refurbishing, power washing, and graffiti removal. We clean tree beds and water trees, and of course, garbage removal and street sanitation. These are all things that we are happy to do in the district and throughout New York City. The other part of this component is, it's really important that they're doing this work, but it's not the end goal of the program. So after they come back from their street cleaning routes, they work with our workforce development team. We have career training classes, mock interviews, like resumes. We have occupational trainings for CDL, HVAC, construction, you name it. With the end goal, like I said, of moving folks into jobs of their own and housing of their own. And once they graduate from the program, by doing just that, we offer lifelong services to folks. We really mean it when we say, once you're dough fund for life. Almost done, I promise. You've been so patient. Thank you. Just a very quick anecdote from Norman, who is one of our graduates from last year. He entered the program after 8 years of incarceration with nowhere to go, so he came to us through the shelter system. Hard worker, determined to continue his sobriety, which we require of everybody in the program. And he really committed himself to the program. Within 6 months, he was hired as a job in healthcare administration. and, you know, just was nice enough to lend us this quote, and is just an example of the hundreds of success stories we have every year. Hopefully I'll have the opportunity to send this slide deck to y'all so you can interact with it a little bit. If you're interested in getting involved, we have a video you can watch. It goes so much more than just donating. We have opportunities for volunteers. If you want to participate in mock interviews, you can get in touch with our newsletter. You can refer people. You know, if you see somebody who's experiencing street homelessness, you know, sure, you can give them $1 to buy a sandwich, or you can give them some food, but you can also give them the opportunity to reclaim their lives by referring them to us. And if you are an employer, you know, we really value employer partnerships to hire the folks in our program. So you can get involved with us in that way as well. So with that, I am so grateful for this opportunity to share a little bit of the work that we do to keep your neighborhood clean and vibrant and safe. And welcome any questions or conversations that you'd like to have with me.
Christopher, I have one minor correction to what you said.
Yes.
And that is that you said you've been in the neighborhood since 2002, but I am the first bid in the city when I ran the Columbus Avenue bid, who hired you in the year 2000, and you worked for us for 20 years. You still work for the Columbus Avenue bid, but I'm no longer the director of it. I think this is one of the great organizations in New York City. I cannot say, after 20 years, I have nothing bad to say about you. I love Craig Trotta, who was my guy, who started way down and went up through the ranks. And it's just, the organization does so much. It's not just cleaning, it's really giving people a second chance at life. So thank you.
That is so sweet to hear. And thank you for that correction. And yes, Craig, I wish Craig could be here, but given that he starts at 2 in the morning, you know, he's got to take those duty reps. But he's been going strong with the Doe Fund for 37 years. Got a tattoo of us on him. Bless his heart. He has a family now, thanks to all of his hard work.
Alex, you also have a comment or a question?
Oh yeah, question. One thing that thank you so much for coming, and thanks Maisie for putting this on. One thing that Maisie and I don't know if Steve is on or some of the Block Association people we've been talking about is organizing like a everyone on the Upper West Side clean on this day. So not to put you on the spot, but when we reach out, we would love for you to join our Everyone Clean on This Day effort. Because we need more people cleaning. But thank you so much for coming. I think very interesting. As Jamie knows, I'm obsessed with stickers and graffiti, so that was just tantalizing. Those pictures of the cleaning and news. I don't want to talk about the news boxes and the dog shit, but still, that's one of my other passions. But this is very cool.
Yeah, we'd love to be involved. I'm sure we'll be able to keep in touch to make that happen.
Fantastic.
The only question I'm not sure I heard is if I am a local neighbor organization, or if I'm like Barbara and wanting to bring the Doe Fund into my organization to help keep my part of this neighborhood clean, what's the best way for me to get in touch? How do I do that?
Yeah, that is a great question. So like I mentioned, you know, we receive funding for to have these routes through a combination of business improvement districts, city council funding. You know, we do some of the MAP costs as well. So the best way, you know, you can get in touch with us. Honestly, you can just reach out to me directly, clugero@doe.org, and I can refer it over to our business development side. But it's also lobbying other business improvement districts, forming other business improvement districts or neighborhood associations, talking to your city council representative, your state assembly person, your state senator, so we can, you know, contract and have those routes brought to you in an even stronger capacity.
Thank you so much. Oh, yeah, sorry.
So where is Doe most active? Where do you have the most contracts, if that's not proprietary information? And where would you like to be more active?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So our strongest presence is probably in with the East Midtown Partnership. So we clean throughout the Midtown East area, and we also have a large presence in downtown Brooklyn, which we do through the Dumbo Business Improvement District, the downtown Brooklyn Bridge Park. But in addition to that, we do have the Hudson River Trust, so we're all along there. We have Goodwill routes throughout the Upper East Side as well. And we were lucky enough to expand into Queens, thanks to a route from Gennaro, the council member. So it goes to show that if there's interest and there are folks that are willing to bring us there, we'll be there.
And where would you like to see more activity? Where, are there some areas you're wishing you had a little more?
Me personally, I would love to see where the greatest need is in the community. We operate 3 transitional facilities, 1 in Harlem and 2 in Brooklyn, with a fleet of vans that can bring our crews anywhere in the city. I guess even Staten Island if we really needed to. But it really, we want to respond to the needs of the community. Where people are complaining most about dirty sidewalks, dirty streets, where their current business improvement districts or neighborhood associations feel like need to put those resources together.
I had the honor 25 years ago, 28 years ago, of writing an article about George McDonald. I got to interview him and his wife, and it was a profile article. Actually, it was for the Spirit, and when it was the Spirit, and then I put it into Residential Business New York. So it was fun.
Amazing. Yes, he was a force of nature. I feel very grateful that I had the opportunity to meet him before he passed.
Before we move on, I want to check if there are any questions from, we have a couple of attendees online, including I see some of our Block Association representatives.
Sorry, I jumped ahead.
No,
I was just so excited.
Yeah. But if not, you okay with moving on to the next part? Oh,
I have a comment. I sit up here.
Sure.
Okay. I'm part of the street love operation with the 102nd and 103rd Block Association in conjunction with the Columbus Amsterdam bid. And we've been trying to get other block associations to join us, but we cannot. We clean up the neighborhood, we do garbage collection, we're comprised of volunteers and some paid people. And we're looking for the other block associations to help out, and they won't. And it's a problem. So I really look at your organization wanting to do this. This is wonderful.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because not only do we clean, we expose the misunderstanding about NYCHA, because people think they're all pigs. And by cleaning up regularly there, they aren't pigs. People just don't complain enough. And people don't clean up. Sanitation doesn't, DSNY doesn't pick up. I don't know what the issue is there, but it's not what people think it is. And also, we file 311 complaints. So it's a lot of eyes on the street in addition to cleaning up.
Thank you. I know Alex, our chair, did a great report about the difficulties also in street sweeping late last year, right, Alex? That talks a lot about the difficulties, and I know he.
Yeah, he came out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a good point. Next, hey, Marissa from Sanitation is going to talk about another way, in this case now for people to get involved directly, because Sanitation has some great programs that allow us to do so. Marissa, if you're.
Sanitation's a good organization, by the way.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Loud and clear.
Oops.
Marissa, I think you're remuted.
We lost you.
But we heard you a moment ago.
There we go.
Sorry, okay, I think I need to stay on this one page. I had to use my phone tonight, so I apologize. Oh, because they think I'm driving. Okay, so Community Affairs Liaison with the Department of Sanitation. Thank you for your patience with me tonight. Just want to talk quickly about our volunteer cleanup program. This is a program that I manage where anyone really, any volunteer, any organization, block association, really doesn't matter, can receive tools, supplies, for loan, tools on loan, some supplies and bag cleanup afterwards. We pick up the garbage afterwards for any cleanup that you want to do in the city. Excuse me, we go, you know, it doesn't matter within the 5 boroughs. All you have to do is fill out an application that I have, and Maisie, I can send that all to you tomorrow morning if that's okay, just so you have it to send around to folks. It's literally just an application. You just tell me where you're gonna clean up, contact information, what time, you know, basic stuff, where you're gonna leave the garbage afterwards. And then if you would like, we have tools that you could loan out, and those are brooms, shovels, and rakes. You can get that from our lot cleaning office in Harlem, and then we have our normal lot cleaning office in East Harlem. I'm waiting for that office to reopen again, so I'm going to mention both. We also have garbage bags and gloves, you know, the surgical type, you know, latex gloves, which you don't have to bring back. Those you can keep even if you don't use all of them. And then of course we'll pick up the garbage afterwards, depending on what time your cleanup ends. We'll come pick it up, you know, is it the next shift, that same shift, you know, doesn't matter. A supervisor will come by and check in on you, and that's basically it. We only ask that we have guidelines on the application, so you don't have to remember this. You just can't clean in parks or beaches or for your own residential home. So don't clean out your house using my tools and then put the garbage out. That's a no-no. Please don't do that. This is meant to clean streets and sidewalks, you know, any sort of pedestrian area that's not within a park or a beach, you know, anything owned by the Parks Department or a stadium. I don't know what else, but you know, as long as it's accessible to everybody. And that is done on a rolling basis. I have organizations and groups that do weekly, you know, tri-monthly events, and they just keep sending in those applications and have no issues, knock on wood, yet. But I will send that over to Maisie so that she can send you all that application. It is on our website, but I'll make sure that you get that. I also want to plug for those that maybe don't want to create their own event. We have our Sanitation Foundation Big Spring Clean events. They're going to be happening this spring. I'll send that over to Maisie as well. So if you want to join a cleanup that's already happening, being done by the Sanitation Foundation, you are more than welcome to. Or if you want me to let you know of any cleanups that are happening in your area, and if it seems like it's open to everyone, I can double check with the host. I can let you know about that as well. So do let me know how I can assist if you want to run your own or you just want to join one. We can definitely help you with that. But I'll send Maisie all that information so she can disperse it to the committee and any members and anyone that came tonight so that you have it. And Maisie has my info. If there's anyone thinks of another idea once I'm off the call, you're more than welcome to let me know. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, gosh.
Thank you so much, Marissa. I see we have one hand raised, if you wouldn't mind.
Of course.
Allowing you to talk. There we go.
Hey, thanks so much. It's Steve Anderson from the Upper West Side Coalition. Thanks to you, Maisie, for pulling this together. There's so few things that we all agree on. So few. And we have so many different perspectives, not 2 views. We've got 22 views on every damn thing that's happening around our community. And the first half of this session, obviously, you know, sort of reminded us of the challenges we face. But we all agree we want it to be cleaner. We're prepared to join in. There's a lot of good people who work hard. We know it. We're not blaming the sanitation department, but I'm not sure who else really should be the target, Marissa. So we need to work with you, okay? We need your help in not only giving the tools, but giving the guidance on how we make this happen in a big way. Block associations, neighborhood associations, even some of the nonprofit organizations in our community, they too are prepared to work with us. They're prepared to work with us and help us, but we need to get down to coming into some planning so you can guide us on how this works best, because it is a special treat to have a community come together in agreement on an issue and to be given the tools, not only the physical tools, but the guidance to actually succeed. So Marissa, we're going to be back at you. We want your help. We may need some of your man and woman power, okay? And we'll work with our community board to try to do something big this spring and stick with it. So it's not a one-time only, but it's an ongoing project, just like the Doe people do. Ongoing, always there, always showing up, and it's appreciated a great deal. So thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just flag one thing? So this is totally volunteer based. We will not be assisting. Sanitation workers we do not assist with any volunteer cleanups. I just want to make sure that's put out there. But I will assist any other way that I can and help you any other way that I can. But just please know I cannot bring staff to come clean for a cleanup, volunteer cleanup.
Thank you, Marissa. Looking to you guys, is there anyone else who wanted to make any comments or any questions for Marissa?
Nope.
Okay, then we're on to parks. Thank you all again for your patience, the parks team. It's up to you how you'd like to structure it, but Sophia, I know that you have a presentation if you'd like to go first.
Yeah, that sounds great. And apologies for being camera off today. I'm having some electrical problems in my apartment and I am hotspotting. But I will hopefully be able to share these presentation slides and I will try to do that now. You could let me know if you're able to see the Okay, great, thank you. And please let me know if I cut out at any point, if this is too much for my hotspot. But yeah, thanks for inviting me to present today. My name is Sophia Wool. I'm the Deputy Director of the New York City Park Stewardship Team. And caring for and helping New Yorkers care for our urban forest, our natural resources in New York City is really what my team does. So just want to share a few slides with all of you and then be around for any questions. And then I'll also share some resources with Maisie afterwards to share out.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, sorry, let me see if this will, okay, great. So when just kind of setting the scene for where my team, the stewardship team, fits in New York City parks, we really, care for nature in the city and with, volunteers. And what is nature in New York City? You might not think of New York City as a urban jungle, or maybe you do, but we have forests, landscape park trees, street trees, which is mostly what I'm going to talk about today, wetlands, salt marsh, streams, gardens, grasslands, and trails. A lot of resources, and we hope to engage, New Yorkers in the care of these resources. So what is New York City Park Stewardship? Again, this is the team that I am a part of. So New York City Parks manages over 10,000 acres of forest, salt marshes, meadows, freshwater wetlands, and over 500,000 street trees. And the stewardship program gives New Yorkers a chance to see, learn about, and help care for these special resources. And these are all photos from our many publicly scheduled and available events across the city. We do work citywide. We were formed out of the Billion Trees Initiative, and getting 1 million trees in the ground really required a massive volunteer mobilization effort, not just to plant the trees, but also to ensure their survival. So we kind of came out of that effort, and our program approach is to engage, educate, and empower New Yorkers with the goal of improve natural resources in New York City, and the public being supportive and aware of all of these great resources. So how do volunteers find us? We have a website on the New York City Parks page. We have all of these great, I don't know if you can see actually my cursor, but on the sidebar, there's various sections of our website. I'd say this is the best place to find information about how you can get involved, what resources we offer, because I'm really just going to give a quick overview of that right now. So, we have our virtual resources online, and then we also, go to as many outreach, events as we can. We have staff table and come to, where people are at. So that's a photo from making Brooklyn bloom at Brooklyn Botanic Garden last year.
Brooklyn Botanic Garden.
And then, we on our website, you can see all of the upcoming stewardship projects that anyone can register for. These are open to the public. We just ask that if you are a volunteer who is, under 18 years of age, that you come with a chaperone who is 18 or older, who can sign a waiver for you. And then we also have a part of our webpage where you can request a project for your group. So say, you might notice from this screenshot, we don't have any events in, your district right now. We'll be in Harlem later this month, but, let's say you want an event in your area, you can request a project for your group. Maybe, you're a teacher at a school and you want your kids, your students to participate, or you're a workplace. We do host corporate events occasionally as well with workplaces. And then we also have a program within our team called the Super Stewards, and these are our advanced volunteers. And I would say this is something if people have questions about, I'm happy to answer, and I think it's a really great way to get involved. So Super Stewards perform year-round independent environmental stewardship in a variety of landscape types, and we provide training and resources. So there are 4 tracks. I'm not going to get into all of these, but care captains care for or focus on street trees, so trees in the public right of way. And we've trained 1,500 care captains since 2018 and provide natural areas permits to over 200 people each year. So again, I mentioned those requirements, and it really is just that you're 18 or older or have a chaperone. So you don't need to join the Super Steward Network or be a care captain to care for New York City's street trees. But if you choose to join us, I think on the next slide, it kind of goes into how you would become a part of this network. You're eligible to receive toolkits, so physical hand tools, access to our Tree LC truck, which is basically like our team brings out all the tools and mulch and supplies that you would need to run your own event. So that's great for like block associations or people who just want to get more involved and want to be a leader of an event. And then we also have some resources we partner with DEP to help people apply for fire hydrant permits. You can be permitted to open like a single fire hydrant to water street trees. And then we offer event promotion on our webpage. You have access to people who are practitioners and have connections within the Parks Department. So I think that is definitely a big plus. And then we also offer some special trainings. So I just wanted to go over like the real basics of tree bed care. So removing litter and waste, removing weeds, cultivating the soil, so breaking up the soil, and then applying mulch and water when available. And if you want to learn more about this, you can attend one of our Care Captain webinar trainings. Again, this is just a screenshot I took from our website. You can see that a couple of them have wait lists. If they ever, have a wait list, you can always email us and ask about getting off that wait list. But we schedule these like 3 or 4 times per month. So that's a really great resource if you want to learn more about how to care for street trees and how you can get involved and then, officially join the network. So again, these are the 4 tracks and the other 3 relate to natural areas. So like, not necessarily going to be as much in your district, but the care captains, all you have to do is attend a training in person, or we mostly have them as webinars, and then afterwards you're eligible for a toolkit. We do ask that people attend one of our publicly scheduled events first, just so you see how our events run, you meet the team, but then you're able to sign up for any of these trainings. And again, our goal is to connect volunteers with resources. Volunteers do so much for our city. Our goal is to help facilitate projects that are meaningful to them. And again, reiterating about the physical resources that we would provide, that top photo is that actually should say a Care Captain toolkit. So those are the hand tools gloves and a Parks hat, which, you know, people always like a Parks baseball hat. Then our digital resources, we have a newsletter for the stewardship program, and then we also have a special e-blast that goes out only to people in the Super Stewards Network that contains, you know, additional trainings and special opportunities. Like we had a couple winter tree ID walks across the city that were only open, or not only open, but were promoted mostly to our Super Stewards. And then we can provide information about larger initiatives or days of action, like City of Forest Day, if any of you are familiar with that, or City Nature Challenge, which is coming up next month. And again, yeah, that connection to our team and New York City Parks at large is, I think, another resource we can provide. Yeah, so that was my last slide. This is, you know, if you have any questions after this, you can always reach out to our stewardship email, and I will also share that with Maisie afterwards. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's a one very quick question. I'm on the website. It looks amazing. I wish that I had time to be a volunteer. If there is a particular tree bed that after the snow used to have some, you know, wood up that was taking care of it and is now destroyed, is that a 311 call, or is that something that's going to you?
Sorry, can you elaborate when you say, like, you mean like a guard, like a tree guard around the perimeter?
A tree guard that had really seen better days and was actually pretty dangerous, and has now been knocked down, which is a wonderful thing. But it's a particular pin oak that needs some protection there.
So I actually think Art might speak to that a little bit more because forestry, but definitely in our care captain training, we talk about tree guards, you know, kind of at length, and as well as how to apply for a permit to install one yourself, or what options are for having a tree guard installed. But I think in terms of removing a damaged tree guard, that's potentially a 311 call, but that's not necessarily something that the stewardship team would have jurisdiction over.
Okay.
Forestry's office call as well.
I think isn't it Parks Department that's in charge of the tree guards, and then if it's in front of a building, then the property owner is also responsible, so.
Alex, want to say something?
Oh no, I'm signing up now to become a steward. How have I not known of this?
In all your free time?
Hayden, I challenge you to also become a steward. Well, I think one question is, what if there's a spot where the tree is cut down? How do we get, like, let's say I try to convince someone.
7-year waiting list. They can't say it, but I'll say it. It's a long waiting list.
Alex, we had a tree that fell down in front of my building and halfway, and the Parks Department came and they took care of it and they replanted.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Maybe when you request it though, maybe it'll happen a little faster.
Yeah, you're the chair.
Yep.
I'll send you the link. I'll send you the link.
Okay, send me the link. Send me the link.
There is a wait.
They
I was told there's a wait.
No? I mean, this happened a few years ago in front of my building.
We do have some members of forestry who I know are gonna talk about that. They're on this call.
exciting.
In just a minute, but we do have a member of the public who I think wants to talk about this item. Hey, Steve Zirinsky, good to see you. Your talking is permitted if you want to ask any questions.
Yes, thanks. Steve Zirinsky, president of the West 104th Street Block Association, which was between West End and Riverside. Thank you very much for that presentation. My question has to do with when one considers the street trees and their locations and expanding beds. And I know one can ask the Parks Department to come out and have a look-see and then make sure that it doesn't interfere with any gas lines or electric or any of the other utilities underneath the sidewalk. It'd be kind of nice if we could perhaps convince Parks to come out and do a series of blocks to see what could be there. You know, how many trees could we put on a number of blocks, and then that way we can go back and say, oh, we can do this many or not this many, and then maybe find ways to fundraise for that, or identify rather, you know, have it come a little bit more from the top down, rather than each building or each block having to kind of fight its own battle. to figure out what has to be done. This way, there may be a project for Community Board 7 to take on perhaps, but I don't know if you're the right person at Parks to be discussing this, but anyway, that's just my thought.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely think the forestry folks who are on the call today would be able to speak more to tree planting, street tree planting, than I would. I'm, more focused on the care of, existing tree beds and connecting volunteers to resources to care for those trees that are already planted.
So without further ado, should we, so Art and Eric, I know you two are here from forestry. Would you be able to answer the questions that we've gotten so far that are directed towards what you guys do?
Sure, I'll try to remember them. I know the first one was about tree guards, so I'll start with that one. So we actually don't have dedicated funding for tree guards. Most of our tree guards are actually funded through participatory budgeting that's provided by the council members. And Councilmember Brewer actually has provided a lot of funding to put in tree guards. So many tree guards have gone in, they're still coming in now. And that's actually the process is to currently is to ask the council member, and then the council member directs us as to where to go. You can't make a request of a specific address, but you can make a request of a block. So like say you want to have as many tree guards as you can get, let's say on 81st Street in between Columbus and Amsterdam as an example, you can make that request. And the reason for that is, you don't want to show any special treatment or anything like that of a particular address or a particular person. And then as for removal, you can make a 311 request, but as was mentioned, if it is a hazardous condition, it is the responsibility of the adjacent property owner to take care of that hazard. But it would be borough forestry that would potentially go out there to take a look at it to see if they could remove it or not. But I can't speak to that specifically as to the process of that. The second question was about tree planting. So we are currently in a transition phase where we're actually going to be moving into what we're calling the neighborhood tree planting program. And what that is in a 9-year cycle, we'll be going down every single block of the entire city of New York, planting every available trees that we can in that entire area. That information is available online on the Parks Department if you go under tree planting area, and you can see when it is that your block or your neighborhood will be planted. But we will be in every community board every year and every cycle. It just is kind of like in polygons where we're like moving from area to area. I believe that was all the questions that had been brought up so far on that.
Okay, do you have a question,
With
Linda?
Doug first, and I
Or
have
Doug,
good.
Doug, go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's always been something that I haven't been clear on as to whether or not it's a landlord's responsibility or the city's responsibility. And I've seen a few examples that are very concerning to me. One is, let's say a tree was cut down because it was diseased, and you have a very, very deep trunk or root. I imagine that's a big job to dig it out. And whose responsibility is that? Also, what I have seen are tree pits that I'm going to just say allegedly were paved over because they became an obstruction to a business. And I imagine that's not legal. So if you could, sort of tell us if the landlord's responsibility or the city's responsibility or both, how do you actually functionally get rid of a very, very deep root that may be a tree that could have been 50 years old or more? And what about paving over tree pits that I think were done in the night?
Sure. So I'll take that apart little by little, if you don't mind. So when it comes to tree removals and stump removals, that is done by borough operations. We're split up based off of funding. So for tree planting, if the tree is there and if the stump is there, we'll remove it to plant a new tree, and more capitally funded. And then the borough office is expense funded. And so you can make a request for a tree removal or a stump removal, and they have funding to be able to do that separate from tree planting. And then, so the tree itself, so the stump removal and the tree removal is the responsibility of the city to take care of that, as long as it's within the public right of way. But the tree bed, the tree guard, the sidewalk is the responsibility of the property owner.
Property owner.
So once the tree is removed and the stump is removed, if the property owner wants to put concrete in there as a safety measure, they can do that because the tree is not there. They cannot remove a tree or remove a stump in order to restore the sidewalk. And if they do restore the sidewalk, meaning put a concrete in, we can still come back in and plant a new tree there. We would just open the sidewalk back up again.
So I guess what I'm asking is, I understand for safety reasons, if there is a tree pit and it becomes, people don't see it and it could be a trip hazard, but is there anything inherently illegal about a landlord or a business paving it over, pretending it was never there so that it's not an obstruction for, let's say, outdoor dining or other reasons? Is that an illegal act, or is that the landlord's discretion?
If there's no tree there, then it's the landlord's discretion.
I mean, if there was a pit, the tree died,
and the tree's been removed, the stump's been removed, then the property owner can put concrete back there. And really what it is a temporary measure for safety until we can come in to plant a new tree. And it doesn't, from our perspective, it doesn't matter whether there is an existing tree bed or we create one. It's the same process for us for planting a new tree.
So, okay, I'm still a little confused that if I get it for the safety reasons, but I guess what I'm saying is if it was done, it's paved over, it looks like it was never there. Do you guys have a record that it was there, or is this something that has to be requested to then put a brand new tree as though it was never there?
No, we have a record that it was there. And with the neighborhood tree planting program, we'll be going through and planting in that. And it, again, it's a 9-year cycle. I recognize that that's a long period of time, but we're looking at planting over 100,000 trees in just the next 5 years alone. So that's like 20,000 trees a year. So to plant that many trees is a very difficult task, considering there's really only like 2 months out of the year where we can actually plant trees. So we're planting upwards of 10,000 street trees when we're able to.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
In the interest of time, I really shouldn't tell you the story, but I have to tell you the story, so I'm sorry. But when I ran the Columbus Avenue bid, we had at least 3 trees that were cut down, and in every instance, the stump was removed and a new tree was planted. But we had in the low 70s, there was a bar restaurant. It's no longer there, and the owner of that bar restaurant had a son who was in the armed forces, and so he had a yellow ribbon around his tree. And one morning he comes into work and the tree is gone. And this man, he was hysterical. I'm telling you, it was a horrible thing. And I got on the phone with Parks and I was hysterical, and I raised holy hell. And I'm telling you, that day they came, they cut the stump down and we got a new tree. It was really like a remarkable thing that Parks did for us.
It's
great. Thank
Wow.
you. Sorry.
Anyone else from the board like to speak? If not, we have 2 members of the public. Okay. Three. I'll go to the two online because they've been waiting for a little bit first. So Patty, I see you first, and then Shane, hi, good to see you. We'll go to you next. So Patty, you should be able to talk now.
She's still muted.
Oh, there we go.
So I am the plan coordinator for West 68th Street Block Association. And Shane is actually the other person that's going to speak. He's also from the same place. My question is, in taking care of all of the tree pits on our block from Central Park West to Amsterdam, I do come across some of these trees that are diseased, and they're actually becoming dangerous because with some of these storms that come through, they're weakened, and they're one of them was came down on a car and damaged a car this past year. So who do we contact for something like that to come and look at our trees and, I'm sorry, Kiki, and evaluate, is the tree diseased? Is it in danger of coming down? Is there something that we can do, or somebody else can come and give this tree medicine or something to, to improve it or to make it healthier?
Yeah, so that's Borough Forestry, so I can speak to it a little bit from what I do know. So 311 is the best way to make a request to look at a tree. They do have what are called SLA, service level agreements, so they will come out depending on what the request is. It depends on the amount of time, but they're usually able to inspect a tree that's requested within 30 days. But again, it depends on what it is that you're asking for. If it is like a tree that fell down, that's obviously a shorter period of time. There's a hanging limb that's a little bit longer. And then if it is, like you said, like a diseased or damaged tree, then that's a little bit longer yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Shane, on to you.
Yeah, Maisie, hi, hello, everyone. Maisie, just a point of order information. This meeting is getting a little unstructured because I understand there are other speakers who will speak from parks. I really think we should hear everyone before we go into questions, because, questions come about from presentations, and I don't want to cut that off at this point, because I do have significant comments about sidewalks, but someone may begin to address that, and I don't want to go into it prematurely. So who else do we have who will be speaking?
So Art here is gonna answer questions for us, but is not giving a presentation. Sophia was our last presentation of the ER.
So this is it?
Yeah.
Okay, if this is it, then my significant comment as far as parks is sidewalks. When a sidewalk is being raised by a tree root. And the procedure right now, when that sidewalk gets raised by the tree root, is theoretically one will call 311. 311 will notify DOT to send out an inspector. The inspector will make a determination whether this raised sidewalk is a hazard or not. If it proves to be a hazard, then a violation may then get issued against the property owner, because it's been stated here on numerous times that the raised sidewalk or the maintenance of the sidewalk is the property owner's responsibility. And I just make the comment that becomes the property owner's responsibility whether the property owner has accepted that tree in the first place to be planted there. Because as part of the cycle, if Parks determines a tree should be planted in a location, that tree will be planted there unless that owner presents a very good argument to someone, generally the city council member's office and the community board, that just the planting of that tree, the opening of the sidewalk, will be a hazard. Okay, so having said that, if DOT issues the violation, the property owner then has to go about the procedure. Now, again, when property, I'm citing what is stated in the Parks Department text. If the property contains more than 3 apartments, it's exclusively the responsibility of the property owner to fix the sidewalk. That property owner must contact a licensed contractor who works with the Parks Department to obtain a permit after a meeting is held allegedly with someone from the Parks Department to determine exactly what the work will be. The permit is then taken out to fix the sidewalk problem, and all this is then borne by the property owner. Now, in many instances, this could get to be very expensive. I mean, the Parks Department website states that a minor
Wrap up your question a little bit if you don't mind.
a minor repair, it's on their website, will be between $700 and $1,200. So the point that I'm making is, and I'll just say, raised sidewalks are not just trip hazards, but raised sidewalks become rodent havens, and they're very difficult to deal with. All right. So this is a big problem on many fronts. The point I am making to Art and other members of the Parks Department is this is a very tedious process right now to go through all this, especially for a small property.
And I'm sorry, I've gotta ask you to wrap it up.
I'm wrapping up. I'm just gonna say, if you guys can come up with a solution, maybe a set of guidelines that a property owner is allowed to do this repair on his own or her own, it would be a great help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Or do you have anything that you want to say in response? Should I take one more question?
I don't know that there was a question there, so I'm not sure how to respond to that. You have a trees and sidewalks program for, as was mentioned, for the smaller property owners, but it is correct that for the larger property owners, they are responsible for repairing it on their own.
Gotcha, thank you. Ira, I saw you had a question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For Art, is there been a change in the tree guard program? Because when I was on the participatory budgeting with Steve Anderson, who'll know, the rule was that you could only have tree guards for new trees. You couldn't put tree guards around old trees, existing trees.
Yeah.
That actually has changed now, as long as we're doing it on an entire block. And so what we have to do is within a certain community board, do at least $50,000 or more, and then it qualifies for capital funding. So it doesn't matter whether it's a new tree or an old tree anymore.
That's great news, because I know Steve Anderson was pushing for putting tree guards around all the trees in Teddy Roosevelt Park.
Oh, yes, we know that.
That's her father, actually. That's my ex-husband.
Yeah, all right, so we've got time for 2 more questions.
Actually, he only wanted
Steve
them with Judy.
Zirinsky, I know you have one, and then I've got one that was emailed us in advance of the meeting. So Steve, you're allowed to talk now, and then I'll get to the last question.
All right, thanks. All right, real quick question. Alex, I hope you're listening. All right, what if I wanted to make sure I have trees going on Broadway between 110th and 79th Street? And I asked you guys, mark them all out. How many? Stick as many trees in here as you can. Is that something you guys can identify, so that way, if we want to raise money for it, that could happen?
Yeah, absolutely. You can reach out.
That's
to
what
us.
I want to hear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, the last question was emailed to us in advance of the meeting. And so the question is, I know you have this 9-year cycle that you're working on. The question was, so here we have trees beds that are all up and down Amsterdam that run along the bike path. But the person who emailed this question had some confusion in reaching out to 311 about whether they should be talking to forestry or talking to DOT because they ran along the bike path. So if I want trees along the bike path on Amsterdam Avenue, who do I talk to? What do I do? And that should be our last question of the evening. Thanks, guys.
Sure. So I looked into this a little bit more because it was a little bit complicated, as some of these situations are. Not all of the pedestrian refuges were installed at the same time. And so there were ones that were installed fairly recently, like 2022, and then the others had been installed 2017, 2018, or yeah, had the pedestrian refuges had been installed. And so DOT actually gives us funding for planting those refuges. And so they have funded the 2017, 2018 ones, which those have been planted, but we have not yet received the funding for the ones that were installed in 2022. So those haven't been installed yet. So that's that first part of that question. And then the second part was the maintenance. So like when there gets to be weeds or things like that in those medians, that's DOT that maintains like the weeds and things that the garbage and stuff that's gets within the tree beds. So we maintain the tree, and then they maintain the median, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we could ask DOT to help fund you the rest of the trees, it seems.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay.
Alex is excited. That's all I've got. Yeah.
Very excited.
Okay,
Yeah.
Macy, you did an amazing job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Really, really good.
Thank
Congratulations.
you, Matt, for getting
Hi,
everyone
Matt.
here together.
You are very
welcome.
Thank you, Matt.
And so now, do I have a motion